Bob, can you tell us a couple of stories that you remember?
Yeah. Hi. I'm Sarah's grandfather. You're very fortunate to have Sarah as a teacher, and she's very fortunate to have you as students. She thinks the world of you, and I think you think a world of her. I want to tell you a little story. It's about knowing the value of an education. My father was born in 1903. In World War I, he was 15 when World War I started. So he was too young to go into the service. World War II started in 1941. He was 38, and he was too old to go into service. He never was excited about education. He always thought if you were big and strong and healthy, that's all you needed. So I thought the way he did, and I didn't think much of education. So I quit high school when I was a sophomore and joined the United States Navy. There were some good things about it and some bad things about it. I went to basic training, which is a lot of running around and working hard. And one day I looked across the fence and I saw a lot of young men, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they looked like real gentlemen. They were officers. You know what? They went to their colleges and recruited them to become officers in the Army and the Navy. It began to dawn on me that that's the value of an education. So, being in the Navy, I had a ship that I was on with 100 men on it. I was one of those men on that ship, and we were in the South Pacific. And we went to many battles. You probably don't remember the name Okinawa, Aishima, Aijima. Those were islands in the middle of the Pacific Ocean that were taken over by the Japanese. And we had to go and get them back. So my ship was one that floated right up to the shore, opened up the bow doors, and many young Marines ran out those doors and up on the beach and got mowed down. 18, 19-year-old Marines. It was terrible. I was safe because I was on the ship in a safe spot. I was what they call a gunner's mate. I had charge of guns that were on the main deck of that ship. There were 4 40-millimeter guns and 4 20-millimeter guns. And as soon as we let those men off to run up on the beach, we backed off the beach and went back out to sea. I was on the sea for many, many, many months. And it was worrisome, but we never had any big trouble. The Japanese didn't want to waste a torpedo on an LST because they'd rather have a shot at a destroyer or a battleship. That was a true story. In Okinawa, when we were having the battle there, which lasted about 30 days, I one time saw one of their torpedoes that was fired at us. It wasn't fired at us, but it was fired out in the water, and I could see it go underneath our ship. Our ship was only about 8 feet in the water, and that torpedo went under us. So I got very lucky there. I started to realize the value of an education. So when I got discharged in early 1946, I went back to high school. I had to go back to high school. Then I went to college for a couple years. Education is the whole thing today. You need education, and I think you all know it. She says you're all very good students. And I'm very happy about that, because you already know the value of an education. And I'm happy about that.
Pop, can you talk a little bit about what it was like? You didn't get much sleep being on the LST, right? You didn't get much sleep, and the night that you fell asleep, and then that story.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. On board that ship, we had what they call 4 on and 8 off. The 4 hours on, you stood guard duty. Then you were off 8 hours, but you didn't get any sleep because when you were off for those 8 hours, you had your normal work to do. We had guns to clean and prepare for battle. And so many times I'd be on watch, and one time I fell asleep when I was on watch. That's a bad thing to do because you're supposed to be observing if there are any ships in front of you that might attack you. So I got caught sleeping while on duty. That could mean a death penalty. If you fell asleep when you were on duty, you could get a death penalty. The officer of my ship, who had over 100 men under him, was 22 years old, believe it or not. And he was a magnificent person. He had graduated from Annapolis, the military West Point. And he then was assigned to our ship as captain of our ship. Most of the people on that ship were 18, 19, 20 years old. He was 22. And he was a magnificent person, well educated, knew what he was doing, and we had, excuse me, a couple of officers on board. There were a total of 8 officers. 5 of them were young men about his age, and 3 of them were fellows that had been in the service for a number of years, and they were officers too. But whenever they had a problem with navigation, and they had problems with navigation, because, you know, the Pacific Ocean is a big, big ocean, and to navigate was not easy. But if they had a problem, they contacted him, and he came down and navigated and told them how to find their way around. He was a wonderful person. His father was a multi-millionaire in Florida, and he was a fine gentleman. After the war, I contacted him, and he contacted me, and we talked on the phone many times about the experiences we had at sea.
And last one, Pop, what about your birth certificate? Can you tell us about your birth certificate and how old you were when you went?
Yeah, when I wanted to join the Navy, before I knew the value of an education, my father helped me change my birth certificate so that he made me 17 years old when actually I was only 15. And so I got into the Navy when I was 15 years old. I joined, and I was in there in March, I think, February, and I turned 16 in April. But nobody knew it because I was about 5'11" and weighed about 165 pounds, in pretty good shape. Now I'm about 5'9" and weigh about 220 pounds.
And do you want to talk about when you got back and that's when you met Graham?
Yeah.
Okay.
I fell in love in grade school with a girl named Sarah. She didn't know it because she was a year older than me. And I never asked her for a date or anything. We went to the same high school. And I was always reluctant to go over and converse with her. She was very beautiful, and I really was nuts about her, but she didn't even know it. Towards the end of the war, I got home on a leave, and I met her at a place where youngsters used to go and have a Coke, in a drugstore. In those days, drugstores had booths, and kids used to go in there and have a root beer or a Coke or something and talk. So in 46, after I had been discharged from the service, I walked back to her table and said, Sarah? She said, yes. She kind of knew who I was. I said, can I walk you home? And she said, yeah, that would be fine. That was in 46, in April of 46. And from that day forward, we were together. We got married in 48, and we were married 70 years. And I loved every minute of it. She was magnificent. I was very fortunate to have her. She was a great lady. Your teacher can tell you about her sometime.
Thanks, Pop.
Did I do okay?
You did so great. Oh.